Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Kiersten White.
I'm Dana Piccoli.
I'm Adam Sass.
I'm Zachary Patton-Garcia.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford. Hello! We have the band back together. I am so excited to have all of you here to talk Becoming Part 2. You know, Adam, I feel like, what is it you keep calling Becoming?
Oh, it's the Fritz Bernays of episodes. So yeah, it's Bridesmaids reference for everyone in the room. It's where they're just like, it's the one to do. It's the one to like, it's one of those things where like, I am so busy, I can barely see. But you said we were doing this episode and I was like, well, I can't say no. Like this, like the power of this episode got me back.
I will say I have never had everyone be so agreeable so fast for this.
Yeah.
Like all of you were like, yeah, I want to do that. Yes, absolutely want to do that.
Yeah, Adam, same. I was even like, I'm just going to phone this one in. I'm not going to take notes. I'm just going to be chill. I have 4 pages of notes.
That's amazing. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like universally, like I can't imagine someone watching this being like, this isn't good, right? Like,
well, we said this in the last in part 1, but this could have been a film. Like if we had done the X-Files Fight the Future version of this, where it was like, oh, we ended on a cliffhanger of Buffy season 2, and then it was like, go to the theaters for Becoming. That 100% would have been valid and been a superior experience.
Yeah.
Well, if Buffy knows how to do one thing, it's a season finale episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Dana, that's funny. I think it was Ryan ended the last recording by saying like Buffy always delivered a season finale.
Yep, always.
So we did this for part 1. Dana, you go first. Do you remember, did you watch this live or did you watch it? Were you like me and you watched it later?
So I didn't start Buffy until season 3. Okay, and then I went back and watched seasons 1 and 2. So no, I did not watch this live.
Do you remember how you felt when the first time you saw this though?
Yeah, I mean, tour de force performances by everyone involved.
Yeah.
Just fantastic storytelling and performances, and it's a really impressive finale for a young show, because I mean Buffy's only 2 years old at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Kiersten, how did you feel about this when you first watched it?
I honestly don't remember. I probably watched it live or close to live. That was back in the day when you had to like rush home from your Spanish class field trip to the one Mexican restaurant in Utah County, and
right,
hope you get there in time. Otherwise, you're literally never going to see it again. But
that was me with band candy. My mom was supposed to record it, and I think I was literally on a band trip, and I came back from the band trip that I did not want to be. I was like, that was the last place on earth I wanted to be, and I came back, and she was like, "Oh, something happened with the recording. You have to like just catch the rerun." And I was like, "They don't do that. Who knows when that's going to happen?" I absolutely had a moment with my mom.
Just stream it.
Right? She's like, "Yeah, just travel to the future and stream it." Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I'm pretty sure at this point we were watching it. Like our whole family was watching it. My mom was into it. She didn't make us stop watching it until season 4 when it was too sexy and too gay. In her defense, she is now one of the leading LGBTQ therapists in all of Utah. So people change. Cool. But I'm pretty sure I would have been watching this when it aired. And I still remember Spike's police car speech. Like that is one of the things that has stuck with me through all of these decades. Like, yeah, so good.
Yeah.
And I think this is the hottest, for some reason, and please take this with a grain of salt, lesbian here. This is the hottest I think Spike ever looked.
That's in my notes. I have it in my notes. Exactly. Yes. And when he is by the police car, the way they lit him, it did something to me. I don't know what it was, but I like paused it. I got closer. Just had to look at him for a second.
Zach, do you think you're gay?
I don't know. I might be gay.
Oh my gosh.
This is Zach's coming out episode. Yeah, I just so I said this in part 1, but I'll say it again because this is literally it's so weird to think this was the first episode I ever saw. Like, but I only saw literally I walked into the kitchen, my mom is sobbing, and I'm watching Sarah Michelle Gellar stab someone, and I'm like, huh. This is some good acting. I had no context. I wasn't sad because I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but it was literally like the first time I ever watched Buffy. And it's such a weird thing to be your first scene you ever see. But that was what got me into it. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to watch this.
And your descent began that day.
I know, really.
Like the curse. My God.
Imagine where your
25
life would
years.
be if you didn't devote all your time to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was going to say, this was like, what a fortuitous, like if your mom hadn't been into it, like I'm just like,
Is this my intervention?
my parents were like, absolutely, they were like, goofy vampire, like they're like, you're a little old. They had a moment where they started to, not just Buffy, but like all of the different sci-fi fantasy stuff I was into at the time.
Yeah.
There was a little edge of like, are you sure it's going to be a shame when you age out of this someday to say, I know. Yeah. Like there's like, they were really trying to be like, are you sure you're not going to outgrow this very rapidly soon, please.
My dad very much was like that judgy nerd about it. Like my dad's like favorite movie is Alien, and he would be like, "Oh, that's like a romance show," and I'd always be like, "It's so much more." But yeah, no, this episode, I mean, it's so good. Dana, give me your thoughts on both parts, like the quick summary of how you feel before we dive in.
Oh gosh, well, so I haven't watched part 1 in a bit. But I do know it's when we lose Kendra in that one, and that's a blow, man.
Yeah.
But Angelus just pisses me off. Like every time I see Angelus on screen, it just makes me angry. And I get it. It's important. It's important to the plot, but like, I don't know, like it just sucks the joy out of episodes when Angelus is around. So, I'm really glad we see less of Angelus.
Fair. Kiersten?
Yeah, so it was interesting watching them. I watched both back to back today. It's fascinating to me because I feel like part 1 to me is a lot weaker, and I think it is because we have that focus on Angel and his backstory. And I'm sorry, David, I love you. I'm sure you're a really nice guy. Not your best acting period. I find it really distracting, especially when Sarah Michelle Gellar comes on and she can deliver the dumbest lines.
Yeah.
And sell them so well. And so I even have in my notes, like, I don't care about Angel, but I do care about Buffy. And she plays first love and heartbreak so well.
Yes.
And that to me is the strength of part 1. But yeah, I agree. Kendra deserved better. They did her so dirty.
Yeah.
Also, I love that this is PG-13 horror. So she gets her throat slit and there's 0 blood.
Yeah. It's like one little line of blood.
Yeah. She's laying there on the floor. Pristine. Anyway, but I do think that the 1-2 punch of episode 1 being like, we figured this out, and then the twist at the end of no, we haven't, and everything is ruined. Like, it's set up so well. It's great writing, phenomenal acting for the most part when they're not doing Irish accents. Although that did give me really great permission when I was writing Slayer and Chosen, and I messed up any sort of like British or Irish colloquialisms to be like, well, I'm honoring David Boreanaz.
The only flashbacks for me that work really well in Buffy are the Anya flashbacks.
Yes, correct.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them are just like,
Yeah. Well, it's like when Darla says, he says something like, where have you been? And she says, around. You're like, they didn't say that. I write historical, and I know I mess it up. So, you know what? Kudos, writers.
I will say, I'm not a huge David Boreanaz fan or Angel fan in general, and I'm still making my way through Angel as we do it for Slayerfest 98, but I like his acting better as Angelus than Angel.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's definitely having more fun.
Yeah.
Well, so I will say, as the one person, I guess, on this show, who like I can't really separate like the David Boreanaz stuff, like, because like Angel was like, that was like an early crush for me, and like, so this was like, Angel was a very important character for me, so thank you, everybody. No, but like, no, so no, but like, this is something where like, you know, like when you have somebody who was kind of like a root for you that you're not really like able to be like,
right,
when you're just such a stan, you're like, I pretend not to notice that she has a private jet. Like, you know, that sort of thing, where I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure the accent was iffy. My brain will not allow me to like admit such a thing.
And that's fair.
That is fair.
The power of fandom.
I feel like didn't Ryan said something like that in the first. I was like, that's just what he sounds like. I don't know. And he said it was like a credit to the writing, which I do agree with. Like, does help you because it is bad. But like, I've seen these so many times that I don't notice that it's bad, but I know that it's bad. If that makes sense.
Oh, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't that's. I mean, here's the thing. I feel like. That's another thing that I wish sort of modern media like embraced a little bit more and more. And, you know, I think in certain sections we do. But I think there's a certain type of like online critiquing the very like red letter media, honest trailers sort of way of doing things, which is very like realism and goodness is like more important than anything interesting. And I think what they're doing is very interesting versus like correct.
Yeah.
And that matters more to me.
I did have this terrible moment where I was like, I wonder if Darla's dress is historically accurate to that time period. Then I was like, who cares? She looks amazing.
She does.
Right.
Yeah. Who cares?
I feel like it's the same thing where we do kind of like, it's like, I guess like with sort of historical dramas, like I just don't know, you know, it's one of those things where like, you know, when they did like the Titanic behind the scenes of the movie, like they would be like, listen, these pearls on the dress were from the era. And I was like, I would have no way of knowing that. Just do fake pearls. I don't need, who cares? You could have saved $100,000.
I'm an asshole who needs historical accuracy and shit, especially hair. So like wigs, hair, very important to me. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person.
You're the flattening of culture.
I think it's only if I know that period, if I'm familiar with it. Other than that, I don't think I necessarily give a shit.
I think you could be in the ballpark. Like I feel like it's like, okay, well we're doing enough. Like the detail work is enough. But it's like, I don't know if we need to go into
her dress does look different than like what they're dressed as, right? Or am I remembering it wrong? Like it does. I don't know. I'm sure they got it close enough. It's okay. That's the last episode anyway.
Technically, she's cosplaying as a human anyway.
There you go. There you go. So like now they're dressed really old in the 90s. They're in the 90s and they're dressed like they're from the 1910s. You know, in the 1700s they're dressed like they're from the.
I don't know. Everyone having good dental work in these flashbacks is also fake, so we're not really talking about that.
That's true. I to promo My Bloody Judy, Zach and I have been going through Yellow Jackets, and one of the more recent episodes, so like, you know, the flashbacks are set in the 90s. One of the girls says bestie, and I saw a youth saying that was like anachronistic because no one used that term, but like people did back then, like you, but it was
it actually meant like best friend then though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were doing BFF back then. That's like more known.
That's like, I feel like both were, but like besties was like, I don't know, because that's why I still call him BFF. But yeah,
well, so like, this is like we get into this era, and this sort of came up during Being the Ricardos when that was kind of coming out. Right. There, I don't know did anyone see Being the Ricardos? It was Lucy and Ricky. And it was like the 50s. They were doing the show, and she says to Ricky, like, "Don't gaslight me." And it really made everyone go, I don't know about that. But then, like, a whole bunch of people who can like never admit anything's wrong were like, no, Gaslight was a movie that came out in 1944. That was absolutely a term. It absolutely existed. And I'm like, yeah, but I just don't like. It just is one of those things that it rings so phony to the ear. And I don't know if they said it in that connotation. You know, I don't know if they're calling everybody girl boss back then, but I think.
I can guarantee you, at the exact age that the Yellow Jacket girls were, like that would have, we did not say, what was the thing? Girl boss.
Girl boss. No one said girl boss. Yeah. So
no one said girl boss yet. We said you go girl.
Well, there's no flashbacks in this episode, right?
No
flashbacks.
No,
we just had Whistler as a narrator, which I thought was a really stupid choice, and I'm grouchy about it.
So I was yelling about the Whistler narration at the end of Becoming Part 1 in the last episode. So I was like, why? I was like, it's this perfect, flawless slow-mo. She's gorgeous. The drama is there. And then we have this dweeby narrator. And I was suggesting, I think like maybe Angel could have at least done that if we're going to have a little narrator over that. So it would have been a little bit more sinister. We've got this sort of zoot-suity, goofy, shrimpy guy doing this.
I literally wrote in my notes, please send Whistler back to his failed ska band. We don't want to see him anymore.
Well, Dana, I feel like now that you've watched Angel, you can see where like Doyle was supposed to be Whistler, right?
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah. But so the episode opens on Buffy beating up the cops that are trying to arrest her, and I like that she gets to at least like jab at Snyder. Like she's not going to lower herself to like beating him up because she could, but like, what does she call him? Like a stupid troll or something like that?
And then the female cop tries to shoot her in the back and she's running away.
Like, Jesus Christ.
It's amazing. We haven't seen cops in this town in 2 years. How many children at that school have passed away? They're suspicious.
They're here now, and they've got a suspect, homicide suspect, approximately 16 years old. Suspect is very dangerous. Cute.
Literally that same day, a strange adult was allowed onto campus and self-immolated in the middle of a classroom.
Right. But it does give us a vision of her running in that stunning teal dust.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, I love that coat. Zach, I think it was you that said it last episode that she should have been fighting Angel in that coat.
If I had a Scream 6 type shrine, that coat would be in the center. The light would be over.
Does Cynthia have that? Where is that, Ian?
I don't know. I gotta ask her.
Let's find it. Let's get it.
If that's sitting at some out of the closet thrift shop down the street, I'm gonna put that out.
You and Kiersten go to buy it.
No, it would be a race. We'd tear it in two. It would be an amulet. We'd have to put back together again.
But so then we get post credits. Buffy goes to the hospital to visit her friends.
I love her "don't look at me" outfit and body language.
She looks like she lives in Portland.
She's not like walking like face against the wall, you know. She's
Yeah.
Tio in our Discord server actually dropped a video that I'm meaning to watch. I haven't watched it yet. That's like Buffy being bad at like undercover disguises for 5 minutes, and it's like a bunch of clips of.
Oh, is it like her in the leopard coat with the big sunglasses?
Yep, that's the thumbnail of the video.
Those Mrs. Peacock sunglasses, like, oh my god.
Yeah, we can't all be a triple threat, you know.
Yeah, that's okay. So we find out that like Willow is the one that's hurt the most. Cordelia shows up, and then they realize that Giles is missing.
Oh, can I just add, there was such an interesting character detail in those scenes with Xander, because he's being very protective, right? He's in there with Willow. He's waiting with Willow. And Buffy says, "Did you call Oz?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I didn't even think about it." And in this episode, repeatedly, we see Xander prioritizing his relationships with Buffy and Willow above their relationships with anyone else. And it's just fascinating to me because it's not malicious on his part. He genuinely didn't think, I should call our friend who is Willow's boyfriend who is desperately in love with her. Like, it didn't cross his mind. And it's just such a subtle but a really, really good character detail when it comes to Xander and his relationship with Buffy and Willow and how he prioritizes himself in terms of relationship to them over anybody else.
He makes my blood hot over stuff like that. I'm like,
Kiersten, that is a really fucking good point. I hadn't even thought about it in this scene.
I know. We're all like silent thinking about it now.
That is really true. And I mean, we'll talk about that again at the end.
We will talk about that again, yes.
But so we see that the cops they go to Joyce. They interview Joyce. Buffy's a suspect. We see that Giles is being kept captive because they think he is useful to finding out how to whatever with a Cathla. Kiersten, I'm curious. I asked Adam this. What does a Cathla not bother you because it really isn't really the point of it as like a last minute like thing of world ending plot? Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, a Cathla's it's not the point, right? The point is Buffy and Angel, and Buffy finally being willing to put an end to her own hopes and dreams and love in order to protect everyone. Because she has been pulling her punches, right? She has been holding back. She has been avoiding killing him, and we understand why. But the whole setup with the Cathla is to force her hand, is to finally bring her to a decision point where she has to make a choice. So, like, I could care less what the mechanism, the plot mechanism is essentially. It doesn't matter. That exists to put all of these other things in motion, and the things that it puts in motion are so good that doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
Dana, as the other published author in this recording, do you co-sign?
Yeah, whatever Kiersten said, that's going to work for me.
Yes, what she said. Buffy goes to Whistler's place, or not Whistler, she goes to Giles' place and encounters Whistler, which this is a little, what the fuck is he doing there, right?
He's the most random fucking character. What is he doing here? And why is he in Giles' house? They have never spoken.
Yes.
He has no key.
Yeah, and then she goes back there later and he's still there, and it's like,
yes.
He just
But my favorite thing about their interaction is he's all like cryptic and I know things you don't know, and in the end you're always by yourself, and she literally walks out on him and closes the door like she doesn't.
Yes, as she
She's
should.
like, I don't have time for this, and I love that about her. That even she recognizes like, who is this random dude? I don't have to care.
Yeah, she they do the vague well, the powers that be, and she's like, shut the fuck up. She really doesn't care. And I love that she even she's like, what, are you some immortal demon sent to even the score? Right. And he's like, well,
she's like, stop demon-splaining to me.
Buffy over it is one of my favorite
movies.
Yes. So then we get who stops Buffy in the street, Dana?
Spike.
I always feel like these are trivia questions that I'm going to get wrong, even if I know the answer.
I love when enemies fight together. It's one of my favorite tropes. But yeah, he's basically like, listen, that sword situation, you're just not going to be able to just stick a sword in Angel and have it work. He's like, you're going to need to know how to use it. And, of course they have to punch each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I love his whole speech about why he doesn't want an apocalypse. Why would he? The world is great for him.
Because he's a romantic.
Yeah.
He's romantic. Yeah. He walked through Syllaback, and I love the tender-hearted, heartless person in Spike, and Drew is this thing that he doesn't give a shit about anything else, and if that means he has to team up with his enemy, he's gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he doesn't care. And that it's just such a standout scene, and also such great foreshadowing for the future. There were a couple of things here that were such great foreshadowing, but when she says, I hate you, and he says, I'm all you've got,
hello, season 6.
Hello, season 6. Exactly. Yes. Just so well set up, and their dynamic is so great. And Spike just kills it in these scenes. He's so attractive. He's having so much fun. He's funny. He's charming. I love it. And I absolutely see why he essentially acted his way into such a bigger role than he was originally intended to have. And I fully support it.
Yeah. I rewatching this, I was like, I wonder if this is the scene where they were like, oh yeah, we didn't hire him again for season 3 yet, but eventually we want to bring him back because he is so good. Because I wrote that specific quote down too, Kiersten, that I hate you, I'm all you got. It's so good. And I even like when she's like, all right, talk. And he goes, okay, I'm just going to kill this guy real quick. And she's like, and he didn't mean it to be shitty. He really was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat this guy and then we'll go. Which is kind of that is almost their dynamic for most of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we get the team up, which is their first of many. We go back to the hospital, and this is weird. I don't know. It's weird. Xander's confessing to Willow that he's in love with her, and my notes just say Xander's confessing he's in love with Willow. Fart noise. I don't know.
Boring.
Do we all kind of feel that way about this?
Yeah, I think they really wanted to build up the will there, won't they, with Xander and Willow, but they never had chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you freaking love Oz so much at this point, and you love him because he's the first person who looked at Willow and said, not only is she delightful and smart, but she's freaking hot and amazing, and I love everything about her, right? I'm not going to be her friend and also make fun of her. I'm not going to be her friend and ignore the fact that if you saw her in real life, she'd be the single most beautiful person you had ever seen, right? Yeah. And so, I love Oz because he loves Willow. And so, yeah, trying to put some tension there just didn't really work. But I did feel bad for Xander that, like, he's pouring his heart out to his best friend and she just is waking up for Oz, which, I would too, to be fair.
Yeah.
Oz is amazing. I feel like we don't talk enough about Oz. Like,
freaking
love him so much. Yeah, it is that, and it's like, and they did really trial and error a lot of romantic foils for Xander before landing on Anya. But like it was like, wow, that chemistry did not work there. But I think Anya works so well because I think Xander is such a little pain in the ass that you just need someone who's like, you can buy that she's not like Anya isn't suppressing anything being with Xander. I feel like if he was with anybody else, you'd be like, oh, she is suffering in silence. But you just, because that Anya just blurts whatever that comes out of her mouth, you're just like, oh, she just likes him. She just must like she like calls him out and she kind of belittles. They have this kind of like. They have this like kind of next door wacky neighbor vibe, and like it's like, oh, I think just the fact that like that they're cool because that if she really felt a way about him, she'd say so.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a really good point. And and then Oz and Willow even get this cute moment where she's like, "My head feels big. Is it big?" And he says, "No, it's head size." Like, anytime people are like arguing about like Angel and Spike, I'm like, no, Oz is my forever crush, like from Buffy.
Yes,
like he's the one I would want to date. I would still have a crush on a guy like that now. Like,
100%.
He was so hard. So I had him cameo in Chosen, which is the sequel to Slayer. And I was like, oh, it'll be so fun. I'll have an Oz cameo. I love him. And I watched so many supercuts of his dialogue. And I'm like, how do I write his dialogue? He is so consistently, delightfully weird. And like, it was genuinely more of a challenge to capture his voice than it was to capture Buffy's or Faith's or any of the other main characters, just because
because he's kind of like he's kind of like Garth from Wayne's World, where he's just sort of like quiet but not like these little. It's so performance dependent.
Yeah.
If it was like a bad actor doing this, we would probably all not love us.
But he's so charming. Oh, he's so charming.
Well, there's something to be said about people who are effortlessly cool.
Yes.
Also that. I mean, Oz just walks into a room. He's not trying at all, but it's like he's got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
He also like never had any identity crisis about being in the Scooby. Like I feel like every other Scooby had at some point some like, oh, I'm not really part of the thing, or I'm not providing, or I'm not this and that. He just was like, he just kind of strolled in, helped, didn't help, strolled out. There was never a big like he has to work something out. It was like only until like New Moon Rising or whatever that he had like actual
had to write him out.
When they were like when they had to be like so I don't know. I have issues with that episode. But yes. Not my Oz, but here we go.
Right. So I think it's Oz says, "Is everybody else okay?" And then we cut to Giles tied to a fucking chair. They are going to torture him, but I do like when he's like, "So how are you doing?" And Giles is like, "Never been better." Like Giles is not going to give shit up. Giles would have died before he would tell them, right?
Yes.
Like,
right. Well, that's his Slayer. That's his Watcher. oath basically.
Yeah. And like by this point, Buffy very much is like his daughter, right? Like we're there at the point where like he does consider her like a child to him.
And I love that like. Because Giles is, and it's again we spoke in the previous episode about how much we loved and sort of missed the 22 episode genre show season because it's doing really well as having a comeback in the sitcom world, but like I think in the genre show it's so important because you get like because we have the one-off episode where Giles's bad boy past comes back. We understand that the man sitting in that chair is not going to tell Angela a thing.
Yeah.
Like it all feeds that episode, even though it could be considered an irrelevant episode of the season.
Right. Yeah.
If you were like, chop it down to 8, make it a tight 8 episode season, like that would be one of the ones to go. But then that's one of the big things you would lose is that you would lose this sort of feeling of like, oh, Giles has been through so much worse.
Yeah.
And that's not, and he's like a toughness that he does not usually show.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we cut to the Summers home. Buffy and Spike are on their way in. Joyce's pulling up and Dana, go ahead.
It's just so stupid. I don't mean. Okay, this is the most fucked up town in the world, right? So like the fact that Joyce is just like cannot like handle what is happening. Like this is the first time that she has ever had to reach outside of herself to like look at her demon infested suburb. But it's so great because I love the banter and the band, the whole band thing. How Buffy's the drummer. It's so good. It's so this improv between these two enemies is so perfect. But like Joyce is just not having it, and like Joyce, come on, like the world is on fire in your town.
Like, I want to see the, like, alt version where, like, Joyce is just walking through a typical day in Sunnydale, like, in Shaun of the Dead, where he's walking around and, like, slips on the blood and doesn't realize. Like, there's just so many things happening in her own, like, daughter's life. And, like, even, like Buffy has to yell at her later on. Like, where she's like, how many times have you washed blood out of my clothes? And I think, queers in the room, it's very, like, they definitely play in the waters of, like, she's self-enforcing a delusion.
Well, the charade is just so much easier for her, right? So,
right. Because she had to go through this thing where they did uproot, they did have to move. She did
burn
down a school. And she's like petrified, and it only happened a year and a half ago. So I see that version, and I do think Christine Sutherland sells it so well.
She does, yes.
But like, there's not I never once believed I'm like, oh, she's not selling that Joyce is like. It just there is a reading of this that is parent of a queer child who is like cannot accept this into their body.
Shut up, Adam. I was just going to say, I was like, we're going to find a way to turn this queer. I know we are. And then you just went and said the thing. You just did it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, look, she says, like, have you tried not being a Slayer? Which is,
I know. It's
I mean,
exactly
they know what
that.
they're doing. Yeah.
It's funny because that's what when the first time I had Jaina Spenson on, she said that. She explicitly said, because I was like, the show is so queer, like it has so many queer fans. And she was like, well, I do think it was queer before Willow and Tara. She was like, in season 2, Buffy basically comes out to her mom and her mom doesn't accept it. She was like, and I think that's a very like queer experience. And it is, of course.
Correct. Because Ian, there is a reason. I mean, and we talked about this in the last episode where like I did watch this live and I recorded it, and my family went on a summer vacation and I took the VHS tape with me to watch it again and again. Like I had this was a security, like this was psychologically important to me in a way I did not realize until later.
Yeah.
And again, it's like it was playing and it was, it knew what it was doing. And that's why like just 25 years later, I'm able to, without having rewatched the show, recite it from memory. I'm the one person who probably did not rewatch the show before. I mean, I was like, no, I got it. Like, no, I'm doing all of this from, I don't even know the last time I saw it, but like,
Adam, I'm impressed.
It's in my blood. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, I think too, this scene holds up so well because I remember seeing it as a teenager and feeling so validated when Buffy gets mad at her mom and is, there's blood in my clothes. Like, how did you rationalize that? How did you not see how much pain I've been in, right? How did you not see what I'm going through?
Yes.
And then as a mother, I have teenagers and this scene breaks my heart because it is like my greatest fear as a mom is that I won't notice, or I'll be so afraid that I will deliberately not notice what my kids are going through. So it's really gutting and sad to see Buffy dealing with that, but then also you can see Joyce regrets it the moment she says, don't walk out that door.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of feel like this is why we practice important conversations as parents so that we aren't caught off guard when our kids come out as Slayers.
Right.
And so that they know we support them. And we support their identity. We support their destiny, whether that's a Slayer or whatever.
SLGBTQIA.
Exactly.
I mean, might as well, right?
Yes.
You do that groundwork and you practice those conversations.
Because it's one of those things because like re-going this over because I have my next Y that comes out in next year I'm in the middle of revising it right now, and it is dealing with a lot of the anger that Buffy is tapping into here, that a lot of queer people or a lot of queer people deal with, which is like, I was a kid. I shouldn't have had to do the come out thing. Like, it's what, like, there's a part of the come out process that makes you a little angry that someone couldn't just people in my life knew who I was before I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this is something where we should just go walk up to a queer presenting child and say, you are you. But like, and it's just one of those like great kind of tragedies, I think, about queerness and coming out in this current society, is that like there really is, this is the way, but it is such a tragedy that it is on the child to do that work. And a parent can't reach out in that directive a way, because I guarantee you, like, there is a version once you're out that I just wish someone had just said it so I didn't have to say it.
Joyce should have been preparing herself, right? Like, when I finally like came out to my mom, her and I had this really long conversation where she said, I realized pretty early on that this is probably what was going to happen. And I remember sitting your dad down in the garage and telling him, I think Zach's going to be gay. And, how do we handle that? Or how do we, how are we going to react to that? And, Joyce knows. Joyce does know, with washing the blood out of the clothes. The fact that the cops literally were just there. And in no world were the cops there saying that there was somebody murdered and that people were hurt. And then when you do finally see your daughter, because she was clearly out driving around looking for her, right? And when she finally sees her, she brushes it under the rug like really fast, right? She's not angry about it. She would rather just put her head in the sand and be like, okay, well, Buffy's not saying anything about it. I'm not saying anything about it. And we will just continue on, right? But and that was always the most comfortable for her, because in no world you're not going to see your daughter and be like, what the fuck is going on, right? Like, now you tell me. It shouldn't take like her staking a vampire in front of her to say it, like her staking the vampire in front of her is like there's no way to say you didn't see that part, right? Now we have to confront this.
Yeah. And so we'll get to the scene, but I do love all of the Spike stuff here. Like, all of the Spike stuff is so great. I like that when Buffy's on the phone with Willow, I was thinking like the two of them have such good best friend chemistry, because I like that Willow is reassuring Buffy. Yeah. Willow is like, because she knows, like, Willow is the only one, like, people can rag on Willow all they want for like, she lived at Buffy's house, didn't pay bills. Sure. But I think Willow is one of the only ones that like is in tune with what Buffy feels and is going through. Like, Willow is her ride or die. Willow is the one that like knows, hey, my best friend's going through a really fucking rough time. Let me like reassure her that I'm okay, because I don't want her to stress about me. And she's like, I know who the president is. I know how many fingers. My brain isn't mush. And I really like that. And I like that we a few times cut to just Spike and Joyce like sitting in the living room waiting.
And their outfits are color coordinated.
They are.
They're both wearing black over bold red. And I honestly, like, Joyce and Spike have several scenes together, and every scene they have together in the entire series is perfect.
Yes.
They just have a good dynamic.
And the acknowledging of the ex and all of that is just so funny.
I love the look on Joyce's face. She's like, have we met? And he's like, what the ex? Remember? Get the hell away from my daughter. And she just goes, oh. Like, she's like, oh, right, I do remember.
And again, she really doesn't want to confront that, because that was a pretty serious situation. Like, well, if I was attacking you with the ex, that means you were trying to kill my daughter. But we're not going to talk about that, because I'd rather not talk about it. And so we're just going to...
Right. So she's... You live in town?
She's so good. And I just like, and it's one of those things where like, I know they struggled to find things to do with her, in later seasons, but like to that as a writer myself, I'm just like, how could you struggle after seeing what happened with this season? Like, how could you be lost for ways to go about that?
Right, because she can sell it. She has, she
could sell it. She was a helicopter mom. She could have been my mom would not leave my dorm. Like, so like there was a million different ways to do that. Like, and it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, you missed a ton of potential.
She was at the gallery. The gallery.
She was the gal. Oh my God. There's a Disney Plus spinoff called Joyce's Gallery.
And I do like that Spike and Buffy are planning, he's like, Drew bagged a Slayer. She didn't tell me. Hey, good for her, though not from your perspective, I suppose, which I really like. I wrote that down. But I do like that Joyce is like going through 10 billion different questions and they are ignoring her because they have to, right? They're like, they have an important plan they need to do.
Well, because this is when she decides to ask all the questions, like now.
Right. Like, we're a little busy, Mom. Like, and then we get the scene that both of them should have been fucking Emmy nominated at least for this fucking scene.
Yeah. I love that she starts it with have another drink that I totally have missed on other watches. And that's why she throws the damn blaster like this.
like no prestige drama on HBO right now has reached the level of like have another drink and she flings the glass.
She does it good too. She like keeps eye contact and everything.
Yeah, she does the like mom look of like, I'm fucking pissed.
August Osage County, like they do a whole play.
Never has been a better reference.
Like, you come back here. Like they almost get into like a southern accent.
Yeah, and I will say, like, watching this makes me hot. Like, I get mad at Joyce. I understand that, like, to be fair to her, it is like she's caught off guard. She hasn't practiced this conversation. But like, I get so fucking pissed at her. I will say also, I've used that line to be shitty. One time there was a drunk girl who spilled a drink on me and then kept bumping into me and then said, "You're giving me a shitty look." And I said, "Go have another drink." And if she was pissed.
That's...
And I used it because of Buffy.
Oh my God.
That was a long time ago, Ian. I've changed.
And then Dana beat my ass.
I just feel like if I was Buffy and I was like, listen, we have like a Majora's Mask-esque ticking clock now happening. Like we have a very intense schedule whereon I would just be like, you literally could not have brought this up during the fish monster week. Like you could, like when things were a little dangerous, but like I had more time to sit.
Yeah.
And I will say, I told Kiersten this while you're texting, but like my mother never forgave Joyce for this because a Puerto Rican holds a fucking grudge. And my mom will be like, "Oh, that stupid mother. I didn't like her. She didn't help Buffy. She kicked her out of the house. I don't like her. She should have helped her." And like my mom was very of the mind that Joyce should have been a better, like, more proactive in helping her.
Well,
and I get that.
Blew it. She 100% blew it. Her daughter needed help and she gave her an ultimatum.
But to be a little fair to her, I think that she truly didn't think Buffy was going to actually leave. She didn't really mean Buffy leave.
And the expression on her face as soon as Buffy does makes that clear.
Yeah.
Well, Joyce was trying to do the Toys R Us kid move where you're like, all right, I'm leaving now. And then like the kid's supposed to go,
Buffy's like mentally, I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to fall for this, right?
Yeah. Buffy's like, the year I had, I'm
like,
good.
Do you know how many people I have like grieved and buried the last 2 years?
Well, Dawn is like eating cereal at the bar right there.
Oh, Dawn. Yeah, where's Dawn in this?
Well, we'll get there at the end. I do... It's wild to think, like, all of this taken out of context sounds fucking stupid, right? Like, I have to save the world again is such a silly line, but fuck if they don't sell it, right?
Sell it. Yep.
Like, Sarah Michelle Gellar, like, the way she, like, contorts her face of, like, just shut the fuck up. I have, like you said, Adam, it's like, I have a ticking time bomb. I gotta go. I don't have time.
She's already exhausted too, right? And now having to explain this to her mother who, like, she's pretty sure has already been following over the past, like, 30 minutes. Like, I shouldn't have to sit and explain this to you, right? I'm exhausted. I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
And not only is she exhausted, she's fucking heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's heartbroken, which she can't really share with her mother.
Right.
And she's exhausted, and she has to save the world fucking again.
It's like, so rich. It's just the richest scene. Like, this is why this episode is like the heart of this whole episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I mean, you are right, Kiersten. I hadn't thought about that before. It does. Joyce does give the look of, oh fuck, she did leave. Like she wasn't expecting her to leave.
Yeah.
Well, and that again, like Christine Sutherland is so good. Like she echoes that look again at the end of the episode, right? And Full of Grace is playing, and she's reading the letter. You don't have to read the letter; you just see the look on her face, and Christine, and she sells it, and it's just like it's stuck with me. Like that's one of the images from the show that has stuck with me is Joyce dropping the letter, like dropping to the bed. Like it's very. It's perfect.
And again, just like one more time to sort of give Joyce a little bit more credit is that this is her 16-year-old kid, right? If your 16-year-old kid is saying, I'm about to go out and risk my life and save the world, I would probably be like, no, the fuck you're not. I don't think so. Yeah. No.
Absolutely not.
Right. Because that's like something where, you get into this and, and Zach, you were right with, I think it was you, Zach, who said it, maybe it's Kiersten, but like, where it was like, Buffy knows Joyce understands this. That's why she's impatient. She's like, you're kind of, and that's another kind of bringing it, that's another deeper layer of the queer kid talking to a parent situation where they are feigning ignorance, where they are like, just explain transgender stuff to me again.
Right.
And like, one more time and then I'll understand. Like, it's like, no, you understand this.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been asking these questions right as I'm like clearly in a hasty situation. You could have asked this plenty of times in the last season.
Yeah, it's like you were understanding this. You are just trying to get me to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't feel anything over Valentine's Day. You didn't have any questions after Valentine's Day, maybe? I don't know.
Right? When you tried to fuck Xander?
How did she square that circle? And it's so funny because this is a Joyce house over here. Like we love Joyce. My husband and I quote her in Band Candy all the time, but where she's just wild child, and I think that there's a big part of like Joyce that is very connected to how Giles is. I think a lot of the adults in the show are reckoning with these childhoods that are sort of incomplete.
Yeah,
and I think that's it's just very fascinating. You do see that start to come out a little bit in this here, where you're just seeing how just adrift.
And there's a big tragedy with Joyce too over the entire series is that she doesn't want her daughter to have the weight of the world on her shoulders, right? Like she loves her daughter. She loves Buffy. She doesn't want her to have to go and do this. But then after this, she also a little too quickly kind of accepts it and then is also piling onto her, right? We have to take care of Dawn. We have to make sure Dawn's okay. We have to, we like these different things where we don't really see after this Joyce kind of taking care of Buffy and being like, how was like, let me get some Neosporin for this wound or something, right? We don't really see Joyce taking care of Buffy again after this.
Yeah, the closest we get is fucking Gingerbread when she goes out once and then forms Moo and like tries to burn her daughter at the stake.
When she joins MAGA, exactly.
No, it's so true. God, an exhausting mom to have. She's crazy. Yeah, she does the MAGA thing. She has her like daffy friend over, puts the mask on. She keeps trying. Again, this is the most relatable TV mother of all time.
I'm like, is this me? But then we go to the hospital, and this is one of the first times we see Willow taking charge, which I like. Right? She's coming into her own, and she even is like does the like cute little resolve face. Listen to me, and everyone does listen to her. And I don't know. Kiersten, what do you think of this? Because I love seeing this.
I love seeing it too. And I love that, like you said, Willow's coming into her own, right? She knows that she can do it and that they need to let her try and support her in trying the same way that, they support Buffy in those things that she's doing. And it kind of breaks your heart a little bit knowing the eventual path that magic is leading Willow on. But for now, it's such an empowering thing for her. And I love it. I love Willow.
There's such a mirror image of Willow doing this when Jane, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but like when she is eventually in the bed, sort of summoning the soul into like from this remote location, and they sort of recall that image in Chosen in the series finale.
Yeah.
And it's a similar, like, she's in her own world and place. And I think this is such a big, huge moment for Willow here, as it is another healing moment for her at the end of season 7. And it's very beautiful arc making. And it has nothing to do with like who her boyfriend or girlfriend is. And
I agree.
that's new for like female characters in a teen show. Like it was very like it's very cool. It's just very, very cool.
Yeah. Dana, I'm curious, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing Willow she takes these really slow steps and small steps into becoming herself.
I raised my glass to that.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, this is really, truly what her first big moment.
Yeah.
To show like who she is going to become.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I know we talk a lot about like Cordelia's arc, but I do think Willow has a really fucking great arc too.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. So she then tells Xander to go tell Buffy, and we know how that goes. We go back to the vampires. Giles is being tortured. Giles gets shitty with him. I meant to look up what the fuck pillock means, though. Does anyone know what that means? That's what he calls Angel. He said, "You must perform the ritual in a tutu." Pillock. And I was like,
stupid person.
All right, sure. Yeah. Makes sense. So Angel tells Spike she had the chainsaw, but Spike immediately is like, no, because he has a plan with Buffy. And Buffy said, if Giles dies, then Drusilla dies. So then Spike says, we have a different way, and he invites Drusilla in, which we can just talk about because we flash back and forth, but Drusilla comes in and Jesus Christ, she turns into Jenny Calendar.
Just so dark.
Jenny.
Yeah. I just can't stop laughing at how into Drew gets kissing him at the end. I'm like, you know what? I get it. I didn't when I was a teenager. I do now. Giles is hot. You took your chance. Good for you, girl. No, but it is heartbreaking because you know Jenny's death was awful. It was terrible, and it was such a terrible way to break Giles and get the information from him, but also such a great way to do it because it leaves him with his bravery and his integrity intact. Right? He never gave up. They just found the way in, and the way in was through people that he loved, thinking that giving that information would protect them. So it was a great, such a great way to, Giles is still the hero, but also they got what they needed.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. It is because at first he's even a little reluctant, right? Because he's like, it can't be you. But then he and understandably so, he's just been tortured for hours. So he's like, oh wait, it is you, even though it's not. And and Drusilla's a good actor, right? Because it's Jenny. She sounds so kind, sounds so sweet. Then we get the library scene where our beloved Slayer gets expelled from school.
Okay, but first, can we just talk about that stupid body outline on the floor? I'm sorry, Xander deserved better on so many levels, including Buffy could have just stopped at that spot and thought about it. You didn't have to have this cartoony tape outline that it looks silly, right? Oh, Kendra, I'm so sorry.
It happened in a deleted scene. Buffy's got to get to Angel. Buffy and Snyder have some good stuff in this episode. You know what was so sad about it though is that Buffy really was trying in school. Like she really was studying. She was really trying. She was excited to take that test. Willow even hyped her up, and she gets expelled. She just wants to go through school and do well, and she gets expelled, and that's terrible.
Yeah,
I want to say Armin Shimmerman just kills this show. Like he's not known really for the show, but he just kills it, and he's such a perfect foil for we're missing the principal Snyder in the show once he's gone, once we're out of school. There was this little low level antagonist.
Yes,
we're missing
the vile pettiness of him.
Yes.
Yeah, and also he has such a great line where he says, "In case you haven't noticed, the police of Sunnydale are deeply stupid."
Yes.
And I love that he's kind of like the way Glory views Buffy is kind of how Buffy views him, right?
Yes.
Because she could kick the shit out of him very easily. He knows this, but he's still gonna fucking like jab at her. And him expelling her, it's like, God damn it, give her a break. But that's barely a blip for her, right? Because at this point, what do you got?
It's something she's got to deal with it later, right? She's got to think about it later.
Yeah.
There's no time.
Yeah. Zach was right, though. She was trying. She wanted to be there. And so for him to take that away, in addition to everything else, was just, it's gutting, because it's just the last thing, right? She literally has nothing.
And it's followed by that little smirky little face he has, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because he's working for the mayor, and what I love about this is I love a good setup for the next thing. I love that there was a hint that even if this Angelus thing wraps up well, there is something else going on.
Looming,
There is some other agenda going. I think that is such. It's when genre TV is doing its best. It is just like always. It's soap. It's just we're you're focusing on one thing, and we are lacing in something else for the future. It is very, very, very interesting and exciting. It was something where I'm like, what's going on with the mayor? Like all summer. Like my parents were literally like, we're on vacation. Will you stop bringing up this question you have about the mayor? I'm like, no. Like, who is the mayor? Is the mayor a demon? You know, like I was just upset. I was obsessed with like who the next sort of big villain is going to be.
Yeah, and the look of numbness and annoyance on Buffy's face, and she just pulls out that sword, and he like takes a step back because he knows she could fucking kill him. And I just love that, like, she just has other things to do, right? Like, sure, expel me. I don't, fuck you. Like, and I like that she just pulls out the sword and is just like, you never got a single date, did you? And then like walks by with the sword, like kind of threatening, just to like scare him a little, right? And like she deserves to be petty at this point. I would be pettier.
And she can. That's all. If that's what she can do, then she deserves to do it. And because she's not gonna freaking nick him or anything, right? So like,
I love it. Buffy goes back to Giles's apartment though, and then
why
Whistler is there again?
Why? This was already a scene. Why is this? What is the scene?
America is crying out for more Whistler.
It does not matter how many times I watch these Whistler scenes. I never remember what he ever tells her. I never remember it.
Yeah. Except for he keeps calling her kid. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Like,
I've seen this episode like probably 10 times. Every time I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
so
I don't recognize
it's
him.
not her son.
Any of the time.
It's not her son. They're related.
In my real life, if I was going through what Buffy was going through, and I had this huge fight with my mom, and I had this and I've been up all night, and like the only person who gives me advice is kidnapped, and my boyfriend did the kidnapping, and I got all this beef, and then I just had to talk to my goddamn principal, and then I had to run into this man. I'd kill him.
I mean, there's nobody around. Just say Angel did it.
Where's the straw?
He doesn't even have to say anything. I'd be like, that pork pie hat, I have to strangle you.
You looked at me wrong, and that's it.
I would. This is why there's no gay boy slayers, because I'm just like, I can't stand talking to you.
Okay, but he does like give her the secret that Angel's blood is going to be the key.
There's not a book they can find that in. There's not a book.
Yeah.
Their book person is busy. She's got a concussion.
Yeah. And the other book person is captured. Yeah.
Right. Oh, God, terrible.
You know, what's funny is I literally just watched this episode, and Dana, I didn't even take a note, and I fucking forgot that's how she knows. Like, I forgot that it's Whistler.
Yes.
It is.
Right. Why?
It is so weird, right?
I think they were probably trying to set up an eventual Angel thing, and then realized that this guy is polling very rancid. And then they switched.
They could have just sent a postcard that said, it's Angel's blood that does it.
No, listen, and here's the thing. This is what I love. Like, I wish they had done this more, because this is one of my favorite parts of the Der Kinderstad episode, where I love Cordelia as researcher, where you get like, I mean, early on, I know like eventually, like I'm assuming she does like more advanced research in Angel, but like in this one where she's just like, it's honestly like she's annoyed at the extra homework of it. Right? I love her energy where she like one of my favorite moments between any of the characters ever is Cordelia calling up Buffy saying like, hey, I have information under Kinderstadt, and Buffy's like, who is this? And Cordelia's like, it's me. Like, she's just like, it's a perfect dynamic. They have a perfect dynamic.
It really, you're right. It really is like, that's fun to watch.
It's one of my, it's top 5 Buffy moments. Like, it's this stupid little, like, they're both irritated and they got this like Freddy Krueger thing they're trying to get, and like just both like what like both of them are like what. It's great. And I wish there were just more of that. I feel like we could have, like, again, if we did it over again and you were like, well, she has to find out the information somehow, Cordelia would be like, well, everyone is knocked unconscious or kidnapped, so I have to do the researching. I'm a little, and just had this annoyed researching moment.
Yeah. I would have loved that.
Yeah, all the Whistler scenes really boil down to this meeting should have been an email.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Speaking of meetings should have been an email, then Xander shows up like, hey, I'm here to help.
So we got to talk about this.
Opinion.
Because it's never my most controversial Buffy opinion. I think I have it.
I think I'm going to agree.
I think I'm going to agree with both of you.
Okay. Well, now I feel like I should say something really stupid.
I don't know what anyone's going to say. So,
okay. So setting aside my issues with Xander, because I have a lot of issues with Xander, right? And setting aside the fact that he betrayed Willow's trust, and setting aside the fact that this is clearly about him and his feelings, I still don't think it was the wrong thing to do, because he knows that Buffy has to be absolutely focused, and he knows that Buffy can't hesitate. And he knows that if she is waiting on a potential saving moment to happen, she's going to pull her punches, and that could end up with her dead, or that could end up with the world pulled into a hell dimension. And so choosing not to tell her, choosing not to give her that hope and that hesitation, I think it was the right choice.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
I think it's the right choice in a broken clock is right twice a day way. I think he's not doing 4D chess. I think he's like being a little idiot, but
it works out right.
Accidentally
works.
It does work out right.
And Willow said kick his ass. I love that. I love it, and I love that it comes back later. And it's just
that I love. Yes. I do think Buffy would have every right to be mad at him for it, but I don't think it was like you said, Kiersten, you do have to put aside that shit, because it is hard to read it that way without thinking of like, well, he does feel like he has ownership over her and treats her that way sometimes. And like, it is hard to separate that. So I understand why people like hate that moment and get fucking pissed.
It's the advice that Giles would have given her.
Yes,
Giles would have done this in that he would have done it intentionally. I think Xander did it accidentally.
I was just gonna say, it's like the time my friend was on her way to the hospital to get an emergency C-section, and she was like, what are they like? And I was like, oh, you'll be fine. It's no big deal. You'll be fine in recovery. Don't even worry about it. She texted me 3 days later and she was like, what the hell, Kiersten?
Necessary.
Like, you need the truth then.
Yeah, no,
You needed me to encourage you so that you weren't terrified and losing your mind. And now we can talk honestly.
And
but I'm a better friend than Xander, so.
And with yes, it's his own motivations, his own like selfishness that is having him say this, right? But I do still believe, just like with the last episode when he told everybody and he told Buffy that like just kill Angel. There's a percentage where he knows like somebody's already died. Angel's already killed somebody in our group, right? Like he needs to die. Xander knows that Angel needs to die, or else if Angel doesn't die, it could be Cordelia, it could be Willow, it could be him, it could be any of them, right? So there is a percentage there also doing it for a greater good.
Yeah, but he's also the only one who could say that, because he's the only one who prioritizes his own feelings over everyone
Right.
else's, including Buffy's, whereas Willow is empathetic to Buffy's feelings.
Mhm.
She understands Buffy's feelings, whereas Xander's like, well, the world revolves around me and I'm the most important person in the room.
But right now, I'm sorry, Buffy's feelings. He needs to. Angel is like very dangerous and very much needs to die, and he should have
So
stayed dead.
I'm already looking forward to angry tweets about what I'm about to say. But this goes into why I don't think Giles was that incorrect in season 7 when he like distracted Buffy so Principal Wood could theoretically kill Spike. I don't think Giles was. Everyone will like. That's when people. I've learned that people like hate Giles for that because people who love Spike get whatever. And I love him too, but like Giles was not incorrect. She was distracted. She was like, we were spending, the show was spending too much time on Spike at that point. The world is ending.
Yeah.
We have the first evil. Why are we like wasting episodes on Spike? And it's because Buffy was preoccupied, and it's understandable because love does like cloud
There are
your
so
judgment.
many times these people, these vampires, should have been killed because of horrible shit that they did, and it just because you have characters in there trying to push that and make that come to fruition, make that happen, like they're doing it for a reason, right? Like these are bad guys,
right? Yes, and like. So that's why I think you're right, Kiersten. Giles would have given her the same advice. He would have been like, you have to kill him. Because also, I don't know. So again, I don't like that he lied to her because it was mostly selfish, but I don't think he was wrong.
Yeah.
But I do love that we at least kind of revisit it and see. Like, I remember the gasp I let out in Selfless when they first like, and Willow's like, hey, that's not what I said. Like, I remember being like, fuck!
That's when you feel like a real Buffy fan because you know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I always wondered if we were supposed to assume that they talked about it off screen. Like I was like, oh, maybe they like reconciled this later. But like, especially when Buffy tells him that, she's saying it knowing that he lied, right? Like Willow, that's the first time she's hearing it. But Buffy knew that. And that's also the first time she's telling Xander that she knows that he lied. She waits that long because I think somewhere inside she kind of knew, because then in Selfless, her and Xander are flipped, right? She's the one that's like, Anya is murdering people. She murdered a frat house. She's got to go.
Such a good point. Such a good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, that's what I kept thinking of watching it this time, because Kiersten, were you on for Selfless? I think you were, right?
I think I was, yeah.
I think it was like me, you, and Anthony. And like, I think about our talk about that a lot because Buffy wasn't 100%. Buffy, it was like a very good nuance because Xander wasn't incorrect when he was like, well, what about when it's a guy you're dating?
Yeah.
Like that's one of the few times I would say Xander is correct, right? Like, oh, Angel and Spike get passes, but my ex-wife does not, or my ex-girlfriend does not get a pass. I also don't know if it would have helped her. It would not have helped her to know that Willow's going to do this spell, right? Because also it was too late. There was no part of it that wasn't too late, right? It was already in motion.
Yeah. And she would have been trying to delay something, right? Instead of going in there guns a-blazing, ready to like get this shit over with. And she did have to go in guns a-blazing, ready to get the shit over with.
And I get why she would be distracted and want to hold out, but like that wouldn't have helped her in the fight.
Yeah. It was everything was set in motion. Everything was going to happen the way it was going to happen. And you see that flash over her eyes at the very end anyway.
Yes. So then she enters the mansion. I think it's a very good entrance where like he's doing the thing. She beheads the one vampire like behind him. She says something like, hello, lover. And I do like the little Xander Giles scene when he like unties him and Giles is like, no, it's making me see what I want to see. And he's like, why would you be seeing me? And Giles is like, right, good point. So meanwhile, while this is all happening, we get Willow is doing the spell. Cordelia and Oz are on either side of her. And this worked so well for me. I think that like having both things happen and like going back and forth, like sometimes that can undercut a moment, but I think it works really well here. Do you guys agree?
Yeah. And we see it in the series finale.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. And I like that we get to see Cordelia and Oz, like, they don't really know what's going on, right? And they're both kind of like, what's going on? Like, is she okay? Is this supposed to happen? And like, as this is happening, Spike betrays Drusilla and Angel. He like has a lot of fun beating on Angel with that, whatever he has.
It's a crowbar, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a fucking fireplace poker.
Could have been.
And then Drusilla tackles him. I do wish we got to see Juliet Landau get like some like good fight moves in.
Yeah.
And I have a logistical question as someone who is
Yes.
currently writing a Dracula retelling. Could you choke out a vampire?
Yes, you are correct. This is wrong. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Especially because in Prophecy Girl, they explicitly says Angel cannot do CPR on him because he has no breath.
Yeah.
Okay, so question though, or actually maybe an answer. So I don't think that he was stopping her from breathing. He was putting pressure on her, the artery that would have made her pass out.
Okay. That's a better explanation than cutting off air supply. Although still I have so many issues with vampire biology. Like if you don't have a beating heart, you don't have pumping blood, which means that you don't have a sexual response system going on. So
Right.
How?
I will say I do remember reading an interview with he who shall not be named saying, I know that vampires shouldn't be able to get erections, but if they couldn't, the show would have been one season.
Exactly. Sometimes you just let it happen. You just let the thing happen.
Just enjoy yourself. Yeah. That's plus I think I feel like this is my reading of it is that Drusilla is such a silly goose that like she was like I feel like she could be like in the moment sort of like mind game tricked into being like, oh, I'm cutting off your air supply. And she's like,
she just goes along with it.
That she's just like, oh no, and like I could see her convincing herself that she was, she's like, like she kind of is a silly when she passes out. Yeah.
Oh goodness, what a silly goose.
But it all happened so fast.
Yeah, and then also,
Kiersten, you're welcome. Yes.
Yeah, I do love that. Like as then Spike having choked out or cut off the blood supply or just conveniently incapacitated Drew sees Buffy cornered in the courtyard, no weapon, says, "God, he's gonna kill her," and he's like, and leaves. Like, oh,
yeah,
so good, it's so good,
so good. I love that scene. But you know what I love even more is when we get the scene between Buffy and Angel, because god damn it, I feel like there's a lot of empowering shit on Buffy, right? There's a lot of shit that makes me want to like fist pump the air. Like, you know, I talked about it specifically with the four of you when we did Chosen. There's so many good moments.
I want to see you fist pump the air.
But I don't think I've done that since I went to fucking stupid pop punk shows. But like, man, it's just like him knocking, like, it's such a good moment. Him being like taunting her. We know that she has had, like, the last 2 days have been fucking shit for her, right? Like, some of the worst Buffy's had. She's kicked out of her house, expelled. Her father figure was kidnapped. Her best friend was like, maybe had brain damage.
And she's got her period.
Probably does.
Listen,
That's the last.
You were allowed to make that joke.
I love that we've added that to the lore now.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Amazing.
But like, right though, like, I don't know. I think of this a lot when he's like, take all that away, what's left? And Buffy looks beaten down for like 1 second, and then she catches a sword and looks up at him and says, "Me," and like that is such a gratifying kick to the fucking face that she gives him.
I can never not hear like the remixed version of Britney Spears' "Overprotected" when she says "me."
I mean, you're right, Kiersten. That's the show, right?
Yep, that's the show.
Not that it's like, you know, whatever, but like the cinematography's done well. Like, I like the sweeping shots of like going around the room as they're fighting, and you can sometimes see it's clearly stunt doubles, and that's okay. But like, I like the like music is so good, and like the build up, and like,
when they get out into the atrium, like that's a smaller space, so they did it. They used it really well, you know.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, again, like it is amazing how cinematic they made it with no budget. Like, and I have seen high budget shows recently that feel as uncinematic as anything has ever felt. So I know I've been a big old man on these last 2 episodes, being like everything new is a bunch of gum on my shoe compared to this. But sometimes I'm right. Sometimes the old man is right.
Adam. And God, so we get, this hurts my feelings so much. They get in there, they're in front of a Cathla, and we get the cut to Willow, right? And she does the cool thing with her head, which is also a pin you can buy on Slayerfest Etsy, as is a pin of Buffy and Angel fighting when this comes out. It like all happens at like the worst if like the spell had just like not worked, and it would have worked like 2 minutes later, Buffy wouldn't have had to be like, oh, I'm killing him and he's back. Right? Like,
but at least she never went in with the hope that was going to happen. And she kind of already mentally prepared herself that she's killing Angel, you know?
Yeah.
So when it happens, it's not more than a minute that she sits there. She gives him the kiss. Like when she sees that portal open, at her watching it go across her eyes, you can see her envisioning what she's about to do in the situation. Right. And she pulls back. She gives him the kiss. Makes him close his eyes and does it.
And can we just say, Sarah Michelle Gellar is an artist of heartbreak. She is, no one plays heartbreak better than her. Like, she doesn't oversell it, she doesn't undersell it, but you feel it. And the way, once she stabs him, she never looks into his eyes. She keeps her eyes on the sword the entire time. I paid really close attention this time. She never looks up. She never looks into his eyes. And it's gutting.
That is absolutely the way she like activates Sarah. Sarah activates her crying is to like pinpoint a stare and to like stare at something. And then the tear ducts start going. And it gives me chills every single time seeing her cry, because it's not like her face breaks. It's like this.
No.
Almost shock that comes across her face every single time, you know?
Yeah.
I could cry listening to you guys talk about it. Like, and it's like when she hugs, I like made specific notes about the looks on her face, because when she hugs him, like she closes her eyes so hard, you can tell she's like, fuck. Like she's just like, please let this like work. Let this not have to be the thing I know it's going to be. And then when it opens and the look on her, like, there's a reason this was the first scene I watched, and it absolutely sold me on the show like immediately, because she like it's like 2 minutes and she does so much good acting with like barely any lines. Again, Adam, it goes back to what you've been saying about the 22 season episodes, because it's earned, right? Like, even though they really weren't together that much, she has been through so much this season. She does not deserve this on top of everything else, right?
But then, like, here's the thing. Like, so, like, in theater school, they would always say, when you're going through a moment and you're crying, is like, you know, they were like, oh, picture your cat, and it's like, you know, picture your dead cat. And then the professor was like, no, don't picture the cat dead, picture the cat alive. And then that's when the tears would come. So that's like, I think something where you have these moments where Buffy's really going through it, is that she has these silly, irrelevant, non-mythology little moments that she's had with Angel. She's had she's had these little one-offs with him. She's had like the serious stuff, but she's also had the silly stuff. And I think that's life, baby.
Right.
Like that's like, it's a mix of serious, heavy, and silly stuff. And then when you are going through real loss and heartbreak, part of the grief is you remember the silly, fun, happy times when you didn't realize at the time that they were the things you'd missed the most. And I think that you can see that, you know, to what Kiersten said, you can see all of that go through Sarah's face. Is all of the things that they've gone through and will not go through, to her knowledge, forever.
And you do see it like all over her face, right? Because she has she has a couple different like crying methods, right? Like later in season 3, when Angel breaks up with her and she's like crying in Willow's lap, like that's just a whole different kind of heartbreak, but that is one that is like hit her like a truck, right? Whereas this is slowly like trickling over her. It's not hitting her all at once, you know?
Well, there's something special about Becoming's season finale, which is that it's really her first big devastation of many. And she does not know that she has many more of these coming very quickly. And it's the first one. And so this is the first time where she really does. I mean, I guess you could say you could trace this back to Surprise Innocence, where she really sort of, it stops becoming the silly vampire slayer show, and really becomes something much, deeper and really exploring this girl's trauma. But like it is, absolutely, this is the first moment where her life is rocked. And so it makes absolute sense that she just bolts and she can't, like, how do you just go hang with Doug Xander after this? Like, I would hit the road. Like that's like, it's like one of those things where you're just like, you have gone through something so major, so massive. And I've had those moments in life where I've gone through something so serious, so big, I have had to just not cut off friends, but like, it's just, I don't talk to those friends for that period of time, for a long period of time, because just explaining what I have just gone through is too, like, they want me to be the me from 6 months ago.
I mean,
or even just that somebody who loves you will feel that pain with you and you are not ready for that.
Yes.
It's easier to shut off if people aren't supporting you and feeling it with you.
Yes. And I mean, Adam, to your point, not to be too grim, but like, I remember when I called you after I found Chris and like, I told you, can you tell people for me? Because
I mean, it's a phone tree situation. And you shouldn't have, because again, you have to go through the details every time. So you really could only make that call 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's what friends do. And I think she understood on some level that her current friends would not be able to do that. Maybe Willow, but
I was
just
gonna say,
there's a lot of but like she also understands that like no one is going to be able to grieve the way for her, the way she needs, because everyone has lost someone very seriously because of this.
Yes.
So she can't deal with like she needs the help grieving, and Giles is going to have to navigate that.
Right.
Xander has already demonstrated he's not going to do that. Willow may be, but that's not enough to keep her in town. And Joyce is like, very much communicated, I'm going to live on Mars for the duration of your trauma. So
I'm going to live on Mars.
My favorite detail, speaking of Joyce, is that yes, Buffy goes back and gets her stuff, but she leaves her room so messy. Like, she is still a teenager.
I would absolutely do that shit. That is
I
so
like to imagine
do.
that she left Joyce the picture that Angel drew of her sleeping. It wasn't enough. It was just a picture of Joyce sleeping.
And it's just talking about this even further compounds my fury at how Dead Man's Party she was treated.
Oh, yes.
I'm just getting more crispy by the second thing.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring up season 3 because I actually kicked me off my own podcast. I don't remember the specific episode if it's because it's like a side plot in one of the early season 3 episodes when Giles is like, oh, I have to do a spell. But then at the end, like, it makes me cry every time. And it's such like a little moment in an episode. I think it might be, it's the episode where Angel comes back at the end, I think.
That's Beauty and the Beast?
I think it might be Beauty and the Beast, because that's, no, because Angel's...
No, it's, the episode before, like, Beauty and the Beast is he comes back. Yeah. That one before, yeah.
Yeah, God.
Faith, Hope, and Trick, yeah.
But, like, and Willow says, oh, what's the spell? And he goes, there is no spell. And, like, Giles is maybe, I mean, duh, he's, like, the father figure, but he's, like, emotionally mature enough to know that Buffy isn't going to talk about it, right? Like that's her personality is she doesn't talk about it. So he makes up a way so that she can feel a little better talking to someone about it. And that like proves all of your points that like, yeah, that's why she fucking got out of there, because no one else was going to know how to navigate what she was feeling. And like, you're right, Adam, like maybe Willow would have tried to, Xander would have failed. Cordelia wouldn't have been good at it. You know, like, her mom was being an asshole. Like she had no one to like lean on. So she fucking left.
The only person who would truly understand what Buffy's going through right now is Sarah McLachlan. And that is why full of grace.
She's saying it just for Buffy. Just for Buffy.
A death grip on my soul in the 90s. I think I wept to every breakup from like 97 96 or 97 to like 2002 to that song.
I will listen to that song and just like that's my like Elaine Seinfeld like Desperado. Like I just go to a different place. Like I put that on and I like teleport somewhere else. I'm mentally gone. No one in my life understands. I put it on. Well, like my husband understands because he's a huge Buffy fan. So like if that was playing, he'd be like he would know not to say anything. But like I would just literally like just I don't care what age I am. I'm just gonna be like sitting down. And I'll just pour a splash of rye and just fucking sit there and just think about how much time has passed since this episode was aired.
You're like, God, I hated when I had to kill my vampire ex-boyfriend.
I went to school that day. Again, like this aired, this was like, I was maybe like a sophomore, I think, in high school. And I was their age. I got a lot of friends senior year, but like this I like fully in the no friend land then. But I was like so depressed after that episode. I just would like show up to school like if anyone had asked what was my problem, like what if I was okay, and no one did, which is why I felt like getting out of town on a bus. I would have like I felt like I had to kill my own vampire boyfriend because I loved him so much. and that's that show's power. Like it really just I really hope there's a show out there right now doing this for kids. Whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But like I really hope there is because like this show, like Mother isn't strong enough of a word. We've overused it. But like it's just too powerful. It's just too it's like it fulfills more roles than just Mother. Like it's every role in my life was fulfilled by this.
I mean, I definitely think, not that I know I'm in a room with very well published authors, but like that's the reason I wanted to write. Like I absolutely credit Buffy as like the reason. Buffy and X-Men were the reason I want to write, because like Buffy was the first time I saw X-Men animated series was the first time I felt a cartoon was like letting me be smart and like not just dumbing it down. Like, oh, a story about these people who are outcasts and like the humans are the villains and they're really awful to them. Like that was like so cool and adult to like 8-year-old me. Like it imprinted on my brain. And then Buffy was the first like serialized storytelling that like, I don't know, made me see like, you know, I remember being like, oh, cool. They're bringing Harmony back. Oh, that's the gay guy that was like the bully. Like, I love that we had these characters that could breeze in and out and like the continuity was there. And like you said, Adam, it was a quote unquote teen show. Like that's what it was marketed as, but it like didn't dumb it down for anyone. Right. And like, that's what you guys do with YA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's baby's first parasocial relationship. And I think a lot of YA's readers, I mean, Kiersten, you know, like, and Dana, like, it's the readers respond to stuff. Like, I mean, like, these, I take it very seriously, and that is sort of, you know, regardless of however many, 1 to however many number of readers find these books eventually, I know that, like, I understand how important it is to have. To sort of, you create this little dream world and someone can enter there and these people can be your friends for however long you need them to be. And I understand that. Yeah. And I think, you know, some people who don't really get it will make fun of that. But like, I think Buffy is the reason why I would never in a million years play around with that power.
Yeah, I just, So like Dana mentioned, the Sarah McLachlan is the only one that understands her. I don't even like listening to that song because it makes me sad. Like I just think of this and I'm like, ugh.
It's like the precursor to Goodbye to You, Michelle.
Yes, it really
is. Just the other one that just stabs me in the throat every time.
Dana, same thing with that song. Like I don't like it, not because I think it's bad, but because I'm just like, oh, Willow and Tara broke up. Fuck. But yeah, so we Buffy goes to get her stuff, and then I like the cute little like the Scoobies and Willow trying so hard to be positive when she's like, maybe it worked and her and Angel are alone together. Like, all right, well, we are at the end here. First up, we have the question that I think I forgot to tell Dana and Kiersten. What would Dawn be doing in this episode?
Well, it depends on what Dawn, like which Dawn we know. Is it like beginning Dawn, or is this end Dawn? It's like that's my question.
It's the Dawn that would be that the age she would have been in Buffy's memory. Like Buffy would,
Yeah.
Whatever, like what? She would be like 13?
So
she'd been a total pill.
Well, no. Well, how old was she in
You're
The
right.
Real Me? Like,
So she
how
would
old
have
was
been
she
like
in
10, right?
Yeah, she would have been she would have been a child. Yeah. So this would have been, I mean, I maintain that I think Dawn would not have, again, a few years older Dawn would have interjected into some of the different dramas, but I feel like she would have been present, obviously, for the fight. I think she probably would have, I think a younger Dawn would have been kind of run out of the room or like receded from the room when they were fighting. Cause like that was a serious fight. That wasn't like mom kind of bickering. Like that was a very serious
just a couple
fight.
years before, right? She came from her parents fighting. So
yeah,
that's so true. Shit.
Yeah.
I think she would have probably retreated to a safe place where she could overhear something.
Yes, that's true. So, Zach, what do you think?
She's at Janice's house. That's always my answer, and that's going to remain my answer.
Dana?
Okay, based on her being 10, this is my thought.
Okay.
Dawn looked up to and was obsessed with her older sister until probably she hit puberty. So at 10, she probably would have been devastated by this whole situation and probably taken her sister's side.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Kiersten?
So I think that Dawn was at her friend's house. Her friend had a Furby, and Dawn didn't want to admit it, but she really wanted to play with the Furby. Joyce did not get her one. And so while Buffy's world was falling apart, Dawn was just trying to get as much Furby time with her friend's Furby as she possibly could.
I love it.
Wow. That's actually correct.
That's beautiful. They don't sell Furbies at the gallery.
No,
I would love to add an addendum to that where she was at her house. There was a curfew. She comes back post-fight after Buffy's left, finds Joyce beside herself. and then she pieces things together from there. And I think Joyce continues to weave the lie.
God, now I'm like, I don't know what you guys said.
It's depressing at the end of it, however it goes, Ian. It's going to be sad. I feel soulless right now after this episode.
I know.
I'm bummed. I'm big bummed.
Dawn absolutely at least would have been in that doorway while Joyce is reading the letter, like clinging to the side of the doorway, like watching her mom get upset.
Dawn would have come home from the Furby situation and been lied to. But then, like the next morning, Joyce just couldn't keep it together anymore. And that's how she finds out about the Slayer and everything.
Look at this nice writing workshop we all just did.
Great.
Favorite scene, Adam?
I mean, the Tennessee Williams play between Joyce and Buffy, like the whole 3-act play. Like I would put that on stage. Like I'm amazed me in theater school and college did not do this as like a brown bag play. Like I did stuff like that where I was like, oh, I'll take the scene from a movie, etc. I can't believe I didn't do that part. That's a huge missed opportunity on my part. Yes,
I wish you had. Dana?
I'm going to say the come to Jesus moment between Spike and Buffy when they decide to team up to stop the end of the world, etc., etc.
Zach?
Buffy and Angel's fight through her saving the world.
Kiersten?
I mean, all three of those are in my top 3 Buffy scenes of all time. So
yeah,
I got nothing else to add. Like those are peak.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I guess I would say. But like her catching the sword is such a fucking moment for me.
Yeah.
But like that whole thing is good. But then everything everyone else said is also fucking fantastic.
It's a no skips episodes. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just really.
Yep.
That's really true, Adam. It's like there isn't like a bad scene.
It's a full movie. It would have been the best movie like of 1998. Sorry to whoever else came out during that summer. Like
now that you keep bringing that up, I want that so badly, Adam.
Right. There's an alternative. There's a multiverse for that.
Because I remember being so excited when X-Files got like a movie between seasons. Like that was the coolest shit to me.
I was so into that damn movie. Like this would have been, and again, same summer, 98 summer. That would have been too much for, I would have withdrawn from school I would have just been like, what do I need to go back to the school for? I am receiving
Learned everything I need to know from X-Files and Buffy.
I've already received every information.
Favorite outfit, Kiersten?
I mean, she's still wearing the coat in this episode, the teal coat. That's so good. But I can't get over how delighted I am by both her "don't notice me in the hospital" outfit and then her sadness oversized jeans at the end. She's walking away. She's got baggy on. They're ripped at the bottom because we used to do that as short girls. We would just cut the hems off. And the sadness jeans, though, they get me. It might have to be the sadness jeans.
All right, fair. Dana?
I got to go with that coat, man. It's just, it's one of the best outfits, best coats on Buffy. That and Whistler's fedora.
Poor dog. Adam?
I mean, are we combining part 1 and 2, or is this the part 2?
This is for part 2.
This is part 2. Okay. Well, listen, I think because like there's the coat. I mean, I think it's the coat again. Like it's just because again she keeps rocking it. It's not just the slow-mo at the end of part 1 it helps, but the power of the coat it still persists into part 2. So I think I just have to go with that coat. There's just no other.
Nevertheless, she persisted.
Nevertheless, the coat persisted.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I'm like we better like I want to know where the coat is. I don't need it, but like I just want to make sure that it's in a secure location and wasn't just left in a bin somewhere. Like I'm very worried about that.
Well, the season 7 costume designer did tell me he has like 2 of Spike's jackets just like in a box. So it could be in just a bin somewhere.
This is just I'm like full Indiana Jones. This belongs in a museum. Just shouting.
Zach?
Her final battle outfit. I like it. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I'm not saying the coat only because I said it for the last episode, because of course I love the coat. But yeah, it's Zach and I talk a lot on My Bloody Judy about a final girl outfit, and it's a very good final girl outfit.
It is.
It is.
I'm like disappointed that you two are such fake fans that you could not double like the coat. I think the coat is worth 2 episodes worth of favorite outfit.
All right. Well, so the coat would be number 1. That would be number 2.
Yeah. She has the pants on under the coat.
I think we know who the coat's rightful owner is.
Ian and I.
And so I gotta bring this up because I'm that crazy. Someone tweeted this at me to be like, "Oh, did you notice?" And I was like, "I sure did." And I asked Cynthia Bergstrom because Sarah Michelle Gellar wears almost the exact same. She wears what looks like the exact same pants and boot heel in Scream 2.
I still don't believe it. I still don't believe it. It's the same pants. It is the same.
It is, right?
It has to be.
But I asked Cynthia and she said no. She was like, "No,
don't believe you, Cynthia. It's been a long time. I know you forgetful."
You're mistaken.
You, costume designer, you're mistaken.
I told that piece of trivia to everybody on the playground. It has to be true, okay?
Listen, I think this is the conversation that got your parents going. I think Zach's going to be
probably that might have been. It would have been the chosen finale outfit, actually.
Yeah.
And I guess we're all gonna agree A+ for Greg.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
With a couple tiny points docked because somebody should have been waiting with the getaway car after she got done stabbing Angel. She shouldn't have had to walk from the mansion to her house. Just food for thought there.
Whistler could have been waiting.
Where's Whistler would have earned himself some fan favorite points if he'd have just been waiting with a car ride, or Cordelia's car. No. Cordelia has a car too.
Oh yeah, she does.
No, here's myself. She's walking home. She's dejected. Whistler is there. We're in a big wide shot because we're going to do something comedic. We're in a big wide shot. She sees, and Whistler's like doing his. You hear Whistler's narration first. The voiceover comes in, and then we cut to, and then you see him, and he's doing the voiceover. He's like kind of talking in real life. She walks past him. He's thinking he's going to like talk to her or whatever like that, and she just shoves him in a bush.
Yes,
he keeps walking,
and he dies.
Never to be seen.
And his body's been there ever since. Like it went down with Sunnydale.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me for this. I couldn't have assembled a better team for such a fucking great finale of Buffy. I really was like, oh, cool. I want the same people that were on for Chosen because I feel like this, like, people can rag on season 7, but the finale is very good. And then, like, but this is like, I don't know. And I love Graduation Day too. Like, I love The Gift, but this feels like,
This has everything.
Chosen is still
Yeah.
my favorite. I can't get past Chosen.
But so if you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can support us on Patreon, which I'm going to be revamping next month, but you can get access to a bunch of bonus content over there. Any and all support is much appreciated. You can follow us on all social media platforms at SlayerFestX98. You can follow me at ENX Carlos. Adam, where can everyone find you and buy your books?
You can find me on all socials at the Adam Sass. You can buy my first 2 books, Surrender Your Sons, which is a YA thriller, and The 99 Boyfriends of Micah Summers, which is a YA rom-com, wherever you buy your books. And you can pre-order right now my 3rd upcoming horror slasher. For any fans of Buffy, this is a book for you. Your Lonely Nights Are Over. It comes out in September. You can pre-order it now anywhere you buy your books.
And Kiersten, where can everyone find you and get your books?
You can find me on Twitter at KirstenWhite.com. No. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Oh, sure. Whatever. You can find me on Twitter at Kiersten White, on Instagram at author Kiersten White. You can find me on the shelves of your local bookstore. I have a new book coming out in August called Mr. Magic. It is a supernatural thriller horror about how much TV messed us up as children of the 80s and 90s. So, you know, right along with this. And yeah. That's good enough. You can find me those places. Please don't find me other places.
And Dana, I forgot to congratulate you on your Curve Award for Excellence in Lesbian Coverage. So I got to do that now.
Yay!
Dana had told me, but you had told me like it wasn't public yet. So I was like, oh shit, I can't post about it. And then I fucking forgot to post about it. But I want to congratulate you. Yeah, tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. So I won the inaugural Curve and NLGJA, which is the National Gay and Lesbian Journalists Association, award for excellence in lesbian coverage. So it's really validating and amazing. And they are going to be hosting an archive of my work from the last decade plus for, I think, about a year or so. So I think in October it's going to go up and then it'll be hosted. So it's nice, and if you're an internet writer, you know what it's like to have a lot of your work disappear when a site goes down or somebody takes over. So so that was a really cool thing, and I'm now I can say I'm an award-winning journalist.
That's amazing! Congratulations!
Yeah,
thank you.
And Dana, if there's anyone who deserves an excellence in anything gay, it is you. Very much deserve.
Thank you
but
so
also.
much.
Tell everyone where they can find you and your writing.
Yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere at Dana Piccoli. And if you're interested in reading a lesbian romance that's kind of like light and fluffy and fun, I wrote a book in 2019 called Savor the Moment. You can buy it pretty much wherever you order your books.
And Zachary, where can everyone find you?
Well, I also wrote a book called My Lonely Nights Are Over, and it's coming out in August. So you can find it on the internet. If you search Zachary Garcia, if you search Zachary Garcia, you'll find me on the internet. You can search My Bloody Judy, and you can find the horror podcast I do with Ian Carlos Crawford here. And I guess Sarah McLachlan, play us out.
we don't have that kind of budget, Zach.
Ian, you don't have that kind of budget on the Slayerfest 98.
I think every listener to this show could immediately cue that up in their head as if they could hear it really loud. I know they know the opening chords, the bars, they knows everything. I'm listening to it in my head right now.
I'm laughing thinking of Ashley adding it in over us talking about how it's not going to be added in. Happy 25th anniversary be coming, and thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.